All right, guys. So once again, we got to talk about woke supremacy in this country because it is truly out of control. And in my opinion, woke supremacy and woke supremacy groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and more recently, the radical communist affiliated so-called abortion rights protesters, whom have been protesting all across this country, including in churches across the country. And for whatever reason, the Justice Department has turned a blind eye to these radical extremists that, again, are potentially putting people in danger. But in my humble opinion, these groups are the biggest domestic terror threats to this country that the mainstream media simply does not want to talk about. And this video is really going to highlight a whole lot about how the mainstream liberal media ignores woke supremacy, despite the fact that it's in front of our faces and it may cost people their lives. As there was a failed assassination attempt on Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in response to the alleged overturning of Roe v. Wade, a ruling that is going to come up basically any day now, right? Apparently, a guy from California traveled all the way out to Washington, the Virginia area, in order to attempt to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. Now, he had a weapon on him, some knives, all types of gear, and he called the police on himself, apparently. Okay, I'm not sure if he necessarily changed his mind or what exactly was going through his head when he did that, but we'll talk more about him in a minute. However, again, you would think that after something like that happens, where a Supreme Court justice essentially could have been targeted in an assassination, you would think that the left would chill out, right? You think they would say, hey, you know what? Let's chill with all this protesting and doing all this other stuff. Let's just relax for a little bit, at the very least until the actual decision comes out. But no, that's not what happens, okay? As the woke revolutionary protesters actually showed back up to Brett Kavanaugh's house to protest literally the same day that news came out that a guy was arrested for trying to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. Yeah, so again, these people have no shame, right? They simply do not care. You would think, again, after a failed assassination attempt by a guy who stated himself that, hey, you know, I came out here because I'm upset about Roe v. Wade being overturned, or allegedly being overturned, and I'm upset that the Supreme Court probably isn't going to do anything about gun violence. So the guy clearly is a left-wing extremist, right? He's a woke supremacist, right? So with that being said, again, you would think that the mainstream liberal media would come out and say, hey, you guys need to chill out, okay? But see, here's the thing. The mainstream liberal media, specifically CNN, that's who we're going to be talking about today, they've been gaslighting the American people on the real threat in regards to these issues, particularly this issue right here with Roe v. Wade, since the very beginning. I actually want you guys to watch this quick clip of CNN warning about right-wing violence in response to the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade. Now, keep in mind, this was before the assassination attempt.
Preparing for potential violence in the Capitol and nationwide after the leak of that Supreme Court draft opinion that would strike down Roe v. Wade after 50 years. Capitol Police are warning the far right is calling for violence against a religious group planning to rally for abortion rights. Whitney Wild is live outside the Supreme Court. Listen, seeing fences go up there, it's sort of like post-January 6th. What are you seeing, and what specific intelligence is worrying police officials?
Well, at this point, law enforcement sources, several of them tell us that they are closely monitoring social media chatter that suggests that there's a potential for violence against abortion clinic providers, abortion clinic staff, members of the judiciary. That would include the justices here, as well as members of the federal government. And what we know after January 6th and what law enforcement knows across the country is that social media chatter can manifest into actual violence. Sometimes people really do say what they're going to do.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible stuff. It was incredible when they first made that claim, okay, at the beginning of all this. And it's even more incredible now, okay? Because again, this is gaslighting at its finest. This is thinking that, hey, my audience is so dumb, they know nothing about politics, that we can literally come out here and say that, hey, you know, the right is going to be upset because Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned, even though the right vehemently agrees with overturning Roe v. Wade for the most part. The people that are actually upset are the leftists, and they know that the left is upset. But again, these people are here to push propaganda and an agenda. They're not actually trying to tell you the facts or educate you on anything. And proof of that is the fact that after this failed assassination attempt from a left-wing extremist, a left-wing domestic terrorist, again, somebody that's obviously left-wing, CNN, they come out here and they gaslight even more. Take a look.
Very little detail at this point, Kate, other than to say this man is he's an adult man from California. We don't yet know what the nature of the threat was. We don't know what language the threat was or what kind of weapon this man might have had, if he had one at all, because the information at this point is just so thin. But Kate, this certainly contributes to this overall threat landscape we've been talking a lot about. The major concern here with this abortion ruling from federal officials, and they've been sounding the alarm on this for about a month, is that Supreme Court justices will certainly be, potentially targeted by violent extremists who are angered over this pending ruling that is poised to strike down Roe v. Wade. This is an extremely passionate issue. There are emotions on both sides. Federal officials have made clear over and over they believe the risk truly comes from both sides of this abortion debate. So certainly this case, really solidifying what federal officials have been warning about. People are angry. They might seek to use the abortion ruling as a justification to cause violence, and that puts these Supreme Court justices, their staffs, and other members of the judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, at risk. Back to you.
Guys, isn't that amazing? Isn't that absolutely amazing? Right? How it went from the beginning, the threat of violence comes from the right, okay? The feds are telling us that it's the right. It is the right-wing extremists that are the ones that are going to commit violence, okay, in response to getting something that they want, right? CNN, they really think their audience is stupid. So it went from that to, it's both sides now, right? It's both sides after an obvious left-wing extremist tried to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh. Again, this is the gaslighting of America from CNN to try to make people believe that this is a both sides issue when it is clearly not, right? There's nobody on the right that is committing any acts of violence or even protesting against this Roe v. Wade being overturned. They're not. They're not. Now, again, does that mean that there have been no acts of violence that have been committed by people who are in favor of Roe v. Wade being overturned because of maybe some things that have happened in the past? Absolutely, that has happened, right? That has definitely happened. And when those things happen, I come out as a conservative and say I condemn those things, that those things are wrong, okay? Just like when January 6th happened, I said, hey, those things are wrong. We should not be using violence. However, when the left uses violence, they can't condemn it, right? They just simply can't condemn it. They don't want to, right? Again, these are the same people that claim that, we care about democracy so much. When you literally had somebody that was about to attack democracy by trying to assassinate a Supreme Court justice, and the most that CNN can come out here and say is, both sides though, right? Both sides. We're not going to acknowledge our role that we played in this, because I could argue that the left-wing liberal media has radicalized these people, right? That they may have played a role the same way they argued about how Tucker Carlson radicalized the Buffalo shooter, even though there was no evidence that Tucker Carlson actually was an influence for the Buffalo shooter. In fact, there's more evidence that the mainstream liberal media may have influenced and radicalized him, as he was a stated leftist. But according to the mainstream liberal media, he was a Republican. He was a Republican that watched Tucker Carlson. He was a conservative, even though he clearly stated, I am not a conservative. I don't like conservatives. Okay? But again, it's funny how the mainstream liberal media is afraid to simply call out the extremism in the Democrat Party, right? The extremism on the left, they're afraid. When, again, they expect people on the right to call out the extremism on the right. And the funny thing is that people on the right do that, right? Again, even though that Buffalo shooter was not on the right, he apparently was a left-wing white supremacist. I still called him a white supremacist, right? I have no issues calling him a white supremacist. And I come up here on my channel almost every day and talk about how I don't think that white supremacy is a major threat to this country. I really don't believe that. I think that what you see with people like Dylan Roof and that guy, right, that committed the Buffalo mass shooting, for as tragic and terrible as it is, I think that those are very, very, very rare cases. And just as a black person, I don't feel like, my life is necessarily in danger on a day-to-day basis from a white supremacist. Okay, I don't feel like that's on my top list of priorities, right? That's just my opinion on that. But when it happens, when an obvious act of white supremacy happens, I'm not afraid to come out here and say, yeah, no, that is white supremacy, right? Again, I have integrity, right? I call it like I see it. I'm not just trying to, make people feel comfortable or, not upset people. No, I'm here to tell you the truth, okay? I'm here to give you my opinion in a way that I feel like is going to be unbiased, in the sense that I'm not trying to, again, just play for a team. Okay? I'm not trying to play for a team here. Okay? CNN, on the other hand, though, they're like, well, we can't attack these left-wing protesters because they might get mad at us, right? They might get mad at us. They might call us, I don't know, sexist, right? They might call us sexist. Okay? Again, it's amazing how this works. They pretend like there's no extremism on the left when there clearly is. Whether you're talking about the BLM riots, whether you're talking about Antifa, whether you're talking about these people, we've seen this type of extremism happening from the left for years. But nothing's been done about it. The Department of Justice is not doing anything about it. And this is why, I'm disappointed in the Republican Party in the sense that they're not standing up and telling these extremists, look, Democrats are in charge right now, but when we get back in power, we will arrest you. We will arrest you. We know who you are. We're coming after you, so keep trying us. Because you only got so much time left. You ain't got that much time left. Again, I think the Republican Party, to a certain extent, is dropping the ball because they're not speaking tough enough on this issue. They're expecting Biden and the Democrats to do something about their extremists when they don't want to. But the left, on the other hand, they have no issue going after people that they see as right-wing extremists. They have no issue saying, hey, yeah, when we get in power, we coming after y'all, right? That's literally what happened with January 6th. They was like, you just wait till we get in power, right? We coming after y'all. And that's what happened. But again, Republicans, because they're soft, right? A lot of them are, let's be real. They don't want to do that. They don't want to play the same game. Because again, if I'm the Republican Party right now, I'll be talking about potentially impeaching Chuck Schumer. I'm like, no, you have to be removed. We have to have a conversation about your rhetoric. You said that Brett Kavanaugh will pay. Now, you guys interpreted Trump's statements on January 6th to be a threat of violence. You interpreted that as him encouraging violence, inciting violence. So you said something that was a lot more direct in regards to being interpreted as a threat towards Brett Kavanaugh than Trump said. And this guy attempted to try to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh in response. So therefore, yeah, you should be impeached. We should think about removing you from Congress, and we need to go through the process to see if you should be impeached. That's what you do. But again, we're not hearing that from the Republican Party. And this is why the Republican Party is weak. This is why they keep getting ran over time and time again by Democrats. It's a damn shame that we don't have a BLM/Antifa committee going on, right? We should be investigating left-wing extremism in this country. That's what we should be doing. So again, as much as I want to blame the Democrats, I also have to place a little bit of blame on Republicans because to me, they're not coming out here and standing up enough against the extremism on the left. They're asking Biden and Democrats to do something about their extremists, and it's been proven time and time again, they're just simply not going to. Doesn't matter how violent they get. Doesn't matter if they try to assassinate a Supreme Court justice. Doesn't matter, right? Democrats are simply only concerned about protecting themselves. That's the only time they will ever do anything, okay? So with that being said, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.